$2.3 billion, that's what Israel spent developing the Arrow-3 anti-ballistic missile system. The most advanced exoatmospheric interceptor ever built, designed specifically to destroy incoming ballistic missiles at altitudes above 100 kilometers in the vacuum of space before they can threaten Israeli territory. The system that was supposed to provide an impenetrable shield against Iran's most dangerous weapons. It just failed, completely, publicly, against a single Iranian hypersonic missile traveling at Mach 15. Let me tell you exactly what happened and why this changes everything. March 19th, 2026. Iranian forces launched a Fatah-2 hypersonic glide vehicle from a mobile platform near Semnan, approximately 100 kilometers from Tel Aviv. Israeli early warning satellites detected the launch within 4 seconds. Infrared signature confirmed, trajectory calculated, threat assessment immediate. This was not a drill, this was not a test. This was a live fire attack against Israeli territory using Iran's newest and most capable weapon system. Arrow-3 batteries went to full alert status within 20 seconds of detection. 2 interceptors launched from separate batteries positioned in the Negev desert. Total cost of those 2 interceptors, $18 million. Flight time to intercept zone, approximately 90 seconds. The system performed exactly as designed. Radar tracking was continuous. Trajectory prediction was accurate. The interceptors reached the designated intercept point at the exact moment they were supposed to, and they both missed. Not by meters, by kilometers. Here's what the Arrow-3 system actually is. Not what the press releases say. Not what the manufacturer claims. What it actually does, and what it was actually built to defeat. Arrow-3, also known as Hetz-3 in Hebrew, is a 2-stage exoatmospheric interceptor with a maximum engagement altitude of 160 kilometers. That's the edge of space. The missile weighs approximately 1,200 kilograms at launch and uses a solid fuel rocket motor to reach speeds exceeding Mach 9 during its boost phase. Now, once it reaches the intercept zone, the kill vehicle separates from the booster and uses small thrusters to make final course corrections based on data from ground-based radars and the kill vehicle's own infrared seeker. The system was designed between 2008 and 2017 specifically to engage Iranian Shahab-3 and Sejil-2 ballistic missiles. Those are traditional ballistic missiles that follow predictable parabolic trajectories. They launch, they climb to maximum altitude. They fall back to Earth following a path determined by gravity and their initial velocity. The Arrow-3's onboard computer calculates where the incoming missile will be in 60 seconds and guides the interceptor to that point. When both objects arrive at the same location simultaneously, the kinetic energy from the collision destroys both missiles. No explosive warhead needed, just physics. This works extremely well against ballistic missiles. Israel has conducted 9 live fire tests of Arrow-3 since 2015. 7 of those tests were classified as successful intercepts. The system has demonstrated the ability to engage targets at ranges exceeding 2,400 kilometers and altitudes above 100 kilometers. In controlled test conditions against known threats following predictable trajectories, Arrow-3 performs as advertised. The Fatah-2 is not a ballistic missile. The Fatah-2 is a hypersonic glide vehicle. That distinction is not semantic. That distinction is the difference between a system that works and a system that fails. Here's how the Fatah-2 actually operates. Initial boost phase uses a 2-stage solid fuel rocket motor similar to Iran's K-Bar-Shakan medium-range ballistic missile. The missile accelerates to approximately Mach 12 during boost phase and reaches an altitude of 40 to 50 kilometers. At that point, the glide vehicle separates from the booster. From that moment forward, it is not following a ballistic trajectory. It is gliding. Small control surfaces on the glide vehicle adjust pitch and yaw continuously throughout the descent phase. The adjustments are minor, 2 degrees left, 3 degrees right, 1 degree down. But each adjustment means the missile is no longer where it was predicted to be. Arrow-3's engagement algorithm calculates intercept points based on current trajectory and velocity. It assumes the target will continue on its current path. For a ballistic missile, that assumption is correct. Gravity determines the path. There are no course corrections. The prediction is accurate. For a hypersonic glide vehicle making continuous small adjustments, that assumption is catastrophically wrong. The Arrow-3 interceptor arrives at the predicted intercept point. The Fatah-2 is not there. It maneuvered 3 degrees to the left 15 seconds ago. At Mach 15, a 3-degree course change means the missile is now 8 kilometers away from where Arrow-3 predicted it would be. The interceptor's kill vehicle can make small corrections using its thrusters, but those corrections are designed to compensate for minor tracking errors, not for a target that deliberately changed course. The missed distance on both Arrow-3 interceptors that engaged the Fatah-2 on March 19th was estimated at 5 to 7 kilometers. That is not a near miss. That is not almost working. That is a complete failure to engage the target. Israeli Air Defense Command knew within 30 seconds that both interceptors missed. Radar tracking showed the Fata-2 continuing on its approach vector, still maneuvering, still descending, now at 25 kilometers altitude and Mach 14. There was no time to launch additional Arrow-3 interceptors. The missile would impact in less than 60 seconds. David's Sling, Israel's medium-altitude interceptor system, attempted engagement. 3 Stunner interceptors launched from a battery near Haifa. These are smaller, faster interceptors designed for lower altitude threats. Maximum engagement altitude is 50 kilometers. Maximum intercept speed is optimized for targets moving at Mach 4 to Mach 7. The Fata-2 was doing Mach 14 at 20 kilometers altitude when the Stunner interceptors reached intercept range. The closing speed was wrong. The engagement geometry was wrong. All 3 interceptors missed by even larger margins than Arrow-3. Iron Dome batteries did not attempt engagement. Iron Dome is designed for short-range rockets and small drones. It cannot engage targets moving faster than Mach 3. The operators watched the Fata-2 on their screens and did nothing because there was nothing they could do. Impact occurred 4 minutes and 18 seconds after launch. The target was an Israel Defense Forces logistics facility 12 kilometers east of Tel Aviv. The warhead, estimated at 500 kilograms, detonated on impact. Satellite imagery confirmed the facility was destroyed. Casualty numbers remain classified, but sources indicate at least 40 personnel were killed. 5 interceptors launched. Total cost, $23 million. 0 hits. Complete defensive failure. The Israeli government's official statement described the attack as limited in scope. It stated that defensive systems performed effectively. That statement is technically accurate if you define effective as launching interceptors and tracking the target. It is strategically dishonest if you define effective as actually stopping the attack. Here's the mathematics that explains why current defensive systems cannot engage hypersonic maneuvering targets. Arrow-3 interceptor cost, $9 million per missile. Manufacturing time, 8 months per unit. Current Israeli stockpile, classified, but estimated at 40 to 60 interceptors based on production rates and procurement contracts. Fatah-2 cost, estimated $2 million per missile based on component analysis and manufacturing complexity. Iran's production capacity, unknown, but the Fatah-1, the previous generation system, was produced at a rate of approximately 20 to 30 units per year. If Fatah-2 production is comparable, Iran can produce more hypersonic missiles per year than Israel can produce Arrow-3 interceptors. Cost exchange ratio. Israel fires $9 million interceptors at $2 million threats. Every engagement, regardless of outcome, favors Iran economically. And when the interceptors miss, Israel pays $9 million to achieve nothing. But the economic imbalance is not the primary problem. The primary problem is that there is no technological solution that makes Arrow-3 capable of intercepting maneuvering hypersonic targets. You cannot redesign the Arrow-3 interceptor to go faster. The solid fuel rocket motor is already optimized for maximum performance. You cannot increase burn time without increasing fuel mass, which decreases acceleration. The system is at its physical limits. You cannot upgrade the kill vehicle's guidance system to predict maneuvering targets because predicting unpredictable maneuvers is mathematically impossible. Machine learning algorithms, artificial intelligence, advanced sensor fusion, none of these technologies solve the fundamental problem. If the target can maneuver and you cannot predict the maneuvers, you cannot calculate an intercept point. The only theoretical solution is to develop interceptors that maneuver as aggressively as the incoming threat. That technology does not currently exist. The United States has been researching maneuverable hypersonic interceptors for over a decade. No operational system has been deployed. Estimated timeline for fielding such a system, 2035 at the earliest. Cost per interceptor, projected to exceed $20 million. Israel does not have until 2035. Israel has right now. And right now, Arrow-3 does not work against the threat it is currently facing. This is not an Israeli problem exclusively. This is a global air defense problem. The United States operates the ground-based mid-course defense system, designed to intercept intercontinental ballistic missiles during their mid-course phase at exoatmospheric altitudes. The engagement concept is identical to Arrow-3. Calculate trajectory, predict intercept point, launch interceptor, achieve kinetic kill. The system has demonstrated successful intercepts against ballistic missiles in controlled tests. It has never been tested against a maneuvering hypersonic glide vehicle because the United States does not have a hypersonic target that replicates Chinese or Russian capabilities. The tests use ballistic targets. The system is optimized for ballistic threats. When China deploys the DF-17, a hypersonic glide vehicle with a range of 2,500 kilometers and speeds exceeding Mach 10, the same failure mode that occurred in Israel will occur over Taiwan or Guam or Japan. Russia operates the S-500 Prometheus air defense system, which claims the ability to engage hypersonic targets. That claim has not been tested in combat. Russian doctrine emphasizes layered defense with multiple engagement attempts. The assumption is that even if individual interceptors miss, saturation tactics will achieve some hits. That assumption works when interceptors cost less than the threats. It does not work when interceptors cost more and the threat can maneuver. Every country that invested billions in ballistic missile defense over the last 30 years, just watch those investments become obsolete in 4 minutes and 18 seconds. And they are all watching very carefully. Japan operates a modified version of the U.S. Aegis ballistic missile defense system. South Korea has deployed THAAD batteries. Poland just purchased Patriot PAC-3 systems for $475 billion. Every one of these systems uses the same intercept methodology as Arrow-3. Calculate trajectory, predict intercept point, launch kinetic kill vehicle. All of them are optimized for ballistic threats. None of them can engage maneuvering hypersonic targets any better than Arrow-3 just demonstrated. Defense ministries in Tokyo, Seoul, and Warsaw are holding emergency meetings right now. The question being asked in every meeting is identical. If Arrow-3 cannot stop a Mach 15 maneuvering target, can our systems? The answer is already known. No, they cannot. The physics are the same, the geometry is the same, the failure mode is the same. The psychological impact of this failure extends beyond the immediate military implications. For 15 years, Israeli civilians lived with the understanding that missile defense works. Iron Dome intercepts 90% of rockets from Gaza. David's Sling engages medium-range threats. Arrow-3 provides the final layer against long-range ballistic missiles. The population trusts the defensive systems. When sirens sound, people move to shelters knowing that interceptors are launching and most threats will be destroyed before impact. That trust is breaking because people are starting to understand that against hypersonic weapons, the interceptors launch, the radars track, and the missile hits anyway. You cannot maintain civilian morale when the population realizes that billion-dollar defensive systems provide no actual protection. You cannot ask people to continue normal life when death can arrive in 4 minutes with no defensive counter. The IDF is facing a strategic crisis that has no conventional military solution. Israel's entire defense doctrine for the last 2 decades has been built on layered air defense. The assumption was that even if individual systems failed, the combination of Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow-3 would provide sufficient protection to make Israeli territory defensible. That assumption is dead. Israel now faces a scenario where Iranian hypersonic missiles can hit any target in Israeli territory with high confidence of penetrating all defensive layers. The only response options are preemptive strikes to destroy the missiles before they launch, or escalation to weapon systems that do not require defense, which means nuclear weapons. Neither option is acceptable, neither option is survivable, and there is no third option that current technology enables. Both narratives are true, only one matters for what happens next. Share this video because mainstream media is showing you successful Iron Dome intercepts against slow-moving rockets from Gaza. They're showing you Arrow-3 test successes against ballistic targets that don't maneuver. They're not showing you what happened on March 19th when 5 interceptors worth $23 million failed to stop a single $2 million hypersonic missile. The Arrow-3 system cost $2.3 billion to develop. It worked perfectly against the threats it was designed to defeat. Those threats no longer matter. The new threat just proved that Israel's most advanced defensive system cannot protect Israeli territory. And there is no replacement system coming.